Hello, everybody. Anime Reflux. I'm gonna double check my fucking sound settings. Yeah, we're good. Just had to make sure it wasn't coming out through my speakers. All right. So this week we're doing a show called Mouryou no Hako, which has been translated into English as the Evil Spirits Box or something along those lines. And the dialogue has been translated too, after a fashion. I mean, technically they have words in English, but I feel like there's some cultural context that we really don't have
A
for this.
massive amount of it, yes.
Yeah. Whew, boy.
You know,
It's,
at this, go ahead.
you're patient.
I'm really not sure what to make of this show. I mean, as it went on, with the way that they framed it, I was getting the same sort of vibe as Pet Shop of Horrors, but now this is something completely different, and I'm really not sure what to make of it.
I looked at reviews, and a lot of people say, don't judge it just by the first episode. The first episode's kind of like a prologue to something. There's lots of metaphors, and
Unfortunately, we have a kind of concept for how we do the show.
yeah,
so.
that's the thing with this show is we only watch the first episode, and the first episode alone looks like if you took poetry and ran it through Google Translate
Yeah,
a few times.
kind of.
Yeah, it doesn't work as standalone. It definitely doesn't. It's
Uh,
it's not bad as standalone.
I think I got some stuff like the very first scene, but the rest of it kind of did have a narrative through line that I got after a fashion.
I mean, that's fair, yes. Still left me confused as to what the whole point of it was. And how it ties back into the first scene, which is. Again, Pet Shop of Horrors flashbacks, but I don't know.
So, synopsis.
Yeah.
That first scene that we're weirded out by, there is a dude on a train. He has glasses, and no one else in the show did, so I don't think it's any character that actually appeared in the rest of the episode. And he's a bit, dreamy, you could say, daydreaming. And he is sitting across from, or may not be sitting across from, depending on whether it's actually a dream, a dude that's holding a box. And the box goes, ho. To which the guy holding it says, "Oh, you heard that, huh?" And he opens the box, and inside is a girl's head that is alive, that just kind of looks at him and goes, "Ho." And scene.
The only thing that we get out of that is a bit of a disturbing closing line in that the guy looking at the guy with the box says, I couldn't, something in the vein of, I couldn't say why, but at this moment I felt a very strong envy for this man.
Yeah, I felt jealous of him, kind of thing, yeah. So then we move on to the meat of the episode, starting in a classroom where there is a teacher, and he's kind of an asshole. The pretentious, snobby, Japan ethnocentric view on culture, and everything that's not from Japan is worthless, and you should memorize by heart the poems of something Japanese that I'm not familiar with. And he demands that the students try and recite them instead of memorizing those stupid foreign musical acts or something along those lines. And a couple girls try. One of them is our main character for this episode. and they fail. But then, without being called on, the girl in the protagonist seat of the classroom, the one near the back by the window where every protagonist sits, she stands up and recites the whole lot, and the teacher is kind of put out because he's just kind of an asshole like that. Like, he wanted to feel superior is the general idea. And she took the wind out of his sails. Later, the actual protagonist of the episode and this girl who is knowledgeable and beautiful and etc., all good traits, this beautiful girl asks protagonist girl to walk home with her. Which protagonist girl is like, yay, that's super great. I don't know why this is happening, but I'm really glad it's happening. And they become friends through narration. So, okay.
Yep. We're now friends. Awesome.
Sure, why not? Protagonist girl at home is not especially happy. Her mum seems to be trying to get the attention, or has the attention, of a dude that the girl doesn't like, I guess. But her new friendship, makes her happy, so yay. And they have a conversation in a cafe that has a gramophone, so I have to assume this is in the past. Like, set in a period. Like, it's translated from a novel, adapted from a novel, so I assume set in the period that novel was written. They have a conversation. Thank you, phone. That's really annoying. What is it? Okay, that might be important. But they have a conversation where the pretty girl is like, right. Goddesses exist, but they also die. And protagonist is like, how can a goddess die? And the pretty girl is like, well, right. I forget what the details were, but basically, eventually she stops being beautiful, gradually withers, and then obviously she has to die. So, protagonist girl goes home and sees her mum and how she's trying to doll herself up and make herself look younger for this fella. And it's like, you should already be dead, kind of thing. So this girl may be a little bit unhinged.
There's this whole thing of my friend is a reincarnation of me, and I'm a reincarnation of her.
Yeah, that comes up later.
I know, it's there's a sort of a nonsensical language that everyone engages in and takes completely seriously, and I don't know why.
Not everyone. This is literally just a thing between these two girls. This is how they talk, and no one else talks like this and doesn't know what the fuck is going on.
True.
So yeah, protagonist girl is at home, and there is mum's fella there, and she's what's the word? Confrontational? No. Yeah, she's put up a wall. She does not want anything to do with any of this. But the guy is trying to be nice. And he gives her a gift, which is a little doll that, he apparently makes dolls out of the heads that the mum sells to him or something along those lines. And he made one that looks like her and says something about it being... God. It's like trying to keep all these cultural things, all these shorthand bits that I just don't understand and keeping them straight in my head. It's like something about a reflection of the soul. And then the doll smiles at her. So she drops it and runs out of the house, and her mum's screaming at her. Yeah, that's it. Dolls are containers for the soul, kind of thing. Yeah, okay. Don't get it, but sure. This is, like I say, very culturally layered, let's call it. But protagonist girl runs out of the house, and pretty girl was waiting for her. And they dance and have a conversation under the moonlight about how they shouldn't enjoy being in the sun because the sun gives energy and gives life, which means that if you're under the sun, that means you're constantly dying, but you get nothing from the moonlight, so it's like you don't age at all.
Absorb the moonlight. Absorb it.
Yeah, so that's... If there's a theme of what's going on here, it's aging. Like, that's the conversation about the goddesses, like how they will wither, and then, of course, they have to die because they got old and withered, and were no longer beautiful and perfect anymore. And then we have this, where you have to be under the moonlight, because if you're under the sun, then you're living, and that means you're dying.
So, the whole, like, natural... Well, not natural, but twisted evolution of this concept is...
If this perfect girl ceases to be perfect, then she deserves to die, is the logic, the narrative logical through line that they're trying to put together for this thing.
Yeah, and it's... I don't know if it's later that gets... where they show when they're in the boat. Yeah, there's a short bit where they're both in the boat, and there's all these flowers they're lying on top of, and it looks like they're both lying in a coffin together.
Yeah. I think this was the scene where the pretty girl says... I forget which way around it was, but one of them is the reincarnation of the other.
They were at the
right
diner. They were at the cafe.
It was... Protagonist girl is the previous incarnation of the pretty girl. So she decides, well, if I die, then I'm just going to become you.
And if you die, then you're just going to become me.
And the mum has a problem with the relationship because it's getting weird, which it is. And boy, I don't remember the conversation.
But she yells, "Oh, I'm gonna be with her, and I'm never gonna get old." And
if you don't get old, you're going to become
an evil spirit.
Evil spirit, yeah. A Mouryou. So that doesn't stop her, and they just stop talking, the two of them. And the two girls go on another nighttime escapade. And like I said before, the conversation where, like, well, if I die, then that the pretty girl's like, my mum used to try and strangle me, and that was a whole thing. I live with my sister now. That's better. And she demonstrates on the protagonist, and the protagonist's like, well, that's okay, because if you kill me, I don't mind being killed by you, because then I'll just become you. So pretty girl almost strangles her in a way that's a little more intimate than I'm comfortable with. It's but the pretty girl says, now is not the right time. Hey, let's go on a trip to the lake and we'll... I don't remember, but let's go on a trip to the lake and we'll have fun. So, they go to the train station. And the pretty girl, I forget what she says, but I believe it was something along the lines of, "It's almost time." And the protagonist notices as the hair of the pretty girl is ruffled by the wind, on the back of her neck there is a blemish on her skin, a pimple. Ergo, she is no longer perfect and is beginning to quote-unquote wither. Smash cut to another scene inside a train, and there is a dude that is having what seem to be wartime flashbacks.
Yeah, some serious, like, PTSD.
Mm-hmm. And he gets knocked out of them when the train screeches to a halt. He gets off the train. Turns out he's a police officer, and someone threw themselves on the tracks. And the protagonist girl is crouched on the floor crying. Yep.
So, I believe that police detective is probably like one of the actual main characters. As this seems to be about, from what the description says, solving a series of crimes and deaths.
Yep. This was a trip.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very surreal prologue, that's for sure.
Indeed.
I'll say this much. I can appreciate something that will force me to put on my analysis brain.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think this might be a little bit obtuse for our cultural understanding of this sort of thing. We're just not equipped for something like this.
Perhaps so. You know, I looked up the TV Trips page for this show. Apparently, it's one of the more obscure shows out there, despite critical acclaim, so it seems, from the writers of the page. I can appreciate that this show does deserve probably more attention than it received, but, well, it just seems like you would have to be particularly involved in order to be able to look into it. It's not something that will hook you right away, so it seems to me, but it does seem like something that you would be rewarded for persevering through. Even so, not sure I'm going to watch more of this. I might.
I'd be willing to try a second episode, but I'm not necessarily hooked.
Well, I mean, I think I think there are some advantages to the fact that it's based off of a novel, because that means that it has a definite beginning and end point, and the plot will just continue onwards in a reliable pattern.
Yeah. At the same time, it feels like, I don't know. The way they frame this, it seems like they've revealed a few more cards than they probably would have wanted to if this is sort of a mystery kind of thing, which is what the synopsis frames it as.
Quite fair. Yes. But I mean, I'm pretty much lost with what I've seen. I'm curious about what'll happen. But I suppose that that's all that needs to be said for the time being.
Zero, you want to roll for us?
Yeah, let's find something with less art and more
Please stop texting me.
less art and more chaos. That's a 25.
That's, is that X or Z? Or is it?
We did remove a letter, but there are still the numbers, so that's probably...
Yeah, that's Z.
Alright. So, total of 15 shows, and we've taken out 11. Wait, we already did ZX Ignition, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Zix.
then. Okay, so then 10 left.
7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Zapang.
Okay. Bang!
Zapang!
Bang.
Okay, let me see if I can find this.
It has a dub.
It has a season 2, I think. Maybe. Okay.
Seriously,
Maybe
trying
there's
to
a...
steal my job, isn't he?
You know what? I'll let you do this. Just for you.
Well, how gracious of you, letting me do the thing I do every week.
Yep.
Okay. Oh boy, we've got a guy named Future. That's wonderful. Oh, sorry, no. It's the ship that's named Future. My apologies. Mirai, an improved Congo-class Aegis-guided missile destroyer, is one of the newest and most advanced ships in the entire Japanese self-defense force. Her crew, also one of the newest, is led by Captain and Executive Officer. While running scheduled training exercises one day, Mirai encounters a fierce storm that throws their navigation systems into temporary disarray. After a few minutes of recovery, the crew is shocked to discover that they've been transported back in time to June 4th, 1942, because of course with a ship named Future it has to be about time travel. The Battle of Midway. During World War II, letting history take its course for this battle, they managed to avoid the conflict firsthand and make a vow to remain anonymous, changing history as little as possible. However, when the crew comes across the dying Lieutenant Commander Kusaka Takumi, XO, Kadomatsu's instincts to save lives takes over, changing the course of history more than he could have imagined. Oh boy. This could be an oof.
Time travel stories by nature are, they're easy to do wrong. That's how to put it. But I mean, we've been pleasantly surprised before, as I say often. Let's hope that this is another example.
The idea of transporting back in time to World War II is certainly interesting.
It's interesting, yes, for an Axis power perspective.
I say interesting because exactly that. I want to see what this is and what their interpretation of it is.
I don't know whether to feel bad about making the Knights Who Say Knee joke in the beginning when we first rolled this.
I mean, the name itself, I don't even know. It doesn't seem to have any tie-in to it. I mean, I can't think of a better name off the top of my head, so we'll see how appropriate it is, I guess.
Zepang is an antiquated name for Japan.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I googled it. It's the first thing that comes up on Wikipedia. It's an antiquated name for Japan.
Huh.
Well, thank you for that wonderful trivia.
We Google when it came about. Zepang News 1560. Yeah, this is like antiquated as in 16th century use. So I'm not quite sure why they chose that for a World War II thing, but all right, sure.
Zepang is also a 1990 film.
All right. Well, none of us can and/or. That's it for this week.
Yeah, I have no problem with at least saying this because I'm curious. And you know what they say? Curiosity saved the cat and paid off its student loans.
Now, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bang. Down, down, down.